Welcome to a new edition of the brand called You. I brought you many interesting people, and today I think we have someone I would call a quintessential entrepreneur who's done amazing work in identity. Sanjeev, Shriya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Tosh.
Sanjeev is the founder of Smart Chip and Syscom, which is all about smart cards, SIM cards, biometric identity solutions. And he has been associated from the very first SIM card in 1995 to Aadhaar to augmented and digital security. You've seen it all. Sanjeev, tell me a little bit about your early career.
Well, Shatosh, I actually come from a Marwari entrepreneurial family, so business kind of runs in the family. Chartered accountant, studied chartered accountancy, never practiced, always intrigued by technology.
Correct.
Early days, somehow I remember that the whole notion of identity and I would say communications enamored me. I remember even when I was 9 or 10, I was wondering about, how people get identified. And I didn't know that, these two things would shape my life. So I've been thinking about identity, the issue of identity, communications, how people can talk to each other, early days. But I was a entrepreneur late. I started, this journey only when I was almost like 35. So late entrepreneur,
Okay.
Earlier involved in the family business.
Okay. So, let's talk of IDEMIA. Tell me what it stands for and what do you do?
I started Smart Chip in 1995. So early days, my philosophy, or I would say the passion has been that, look for early trends and try to get into a market early. So when I started the company, of course, started with SIM cards. The very first SIM card in the country was delivered by me to all the operators. We had at that time Hutchison.
And did you bring this technology from somewhere?
Yes,
Or-
at that time there was some German company with
Okay.
whom I had collaborated because it was really new to the country. But we very early kind of brought it in the country and started developing in it. Delivered the first, built the first driving license in 1999.
Smart chip enabled.
Smart, yeah,
Okay.
card enabled, chip enabled in Gujarat. And then on and on, started doing number of firsts in 25 years.
Yeah.
If you come to a market early, you
Correct.
naturally generate a number
Correct.
of firsts,
Correct. Including Aadhaar card.
including the Aadhaar program. And that has been kind of a defining stage in my own professional,
Correct.
I would say entrepreneurial career. So, when the company grew big over a period of time, there's always a decision on whether you want to do it alone or, partner with somebody larger. And 10 years ago, I decided to kind of have a deeper relationship with our technical, I would say, partners or, companies with whom we were working. So IDEMIA is a global leader. It's a French company, actually. A global leader in digital identity and security worldwide. It's a worldwide player. We are a joint venture with them, and now the technology that we have built or we kind of deliver is available globally.
Correct. So tell me, this whole question of identity is an absolutely fascinating subject. And what kind of securities can be built to protect my individual identity?
Yeah, it's very important. Actually, first, let me dwell a bit on identity itself, because I think this notion is less understood. And I think the importance of it is less understood.
Agree?
So, many of us who are, let's say, a bit more fortunate, living in urban areas, or, actually we are plagued by too many identities.
Correct.
So, you are managing your own identity, then you have your social identities, and so, the three circles of identity, like the one that you're born with, the one that the government grants you, and the one that you are known for.
Correct.
The brand called you is your identity.
Yeah.
But there are less fortunate people in the villages who actually have dearth of identity.
Correct.
So they don't have what is called an acknowledged identity.
Correct.
I exist, but nobody believes that I exist.
Correct.
And that's the problem that I was always wanting to solve, and Aadhaar became one of the Aadhaar, the foundation to do that.
True.
So the paradox, of course, the question comes is that if you start identifying people, at what stage do you kind of get into
Stop.
the privacy issue? Because I think that's going to be the sequitur of your question.
Correct.
That where does identity, the goodness of it end and the invasiveness start?
I agree.
I think this question remains to be answered differently for different contexts, and
probably for different people
and for different
in different
people
stages
and
of
for
life.
different people. I mean, one example would be that all of us give our identities to Apple. We give it to Google, and we are happy about it.
Yeah.
You want to go from place A to place B. You want to use Maps, so Maps knows where you are.
Exactly.
And they know your mail, and they know your pictures and photographs.
And at the end of the year, they even tell you
They even tell you
which other places you've been to.
Yes. And when was the last time you visited this place? By the way, that's the way I found your place. So anyhow, that's what we give to get something.
Correct.
So actually today, when you the topic of identity and the privacy associated with it deals with this, I would say, delicate balance of when it becomes something that you give willingly. So consent is important, I would say. And recently there have been 2 judgments by the Supreme Court. And actually, they're very interesting reads. If you're a good reader, you would want to read them.
I'd love to read them.
Love to read them. And they deal with the whole context of how identity can be defined. Which parts are private, which parts are untouchable, and which parts can be kind of invoked or used, correct, either for larger good or for social purposes. Of course, as the world is evolving, people are talking of other notions like self-sovereign identity. I want to give as much of my identity as I want to give, correct. And so, it's a complicated subject.
No, I know that when we are now traveling to the US or any other parts of the developed world, we are happily giving our fingerprints, we're giving our retina scans, we're giving everything.
Yes, exactly.
And we're doing it because we don't have a choice. We're not sitting and fighting with immigration saying, I won't give it.
Yes, because, you make the choice between giving it or not entering.
Absolutely. Well said. So, you have been associated with the biggest government programs, from Aadhaar to the Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana to the Jan Dhan Yojana.
Yes.
And we just spoke of identity. How is technology empowering the vast masses of our country?
And actually, that has been my passion.
Correct.
See, the biggest difference comes at the bottom of the pyramid.
Correct.
And
That's where they need it the most.
that's where they need it the most. And that's where the technology, I would say, changes the lives of people. Early days, very early days, because of my involvement with the cellular technology, I had a chance to visit many villages in UP, in Delhi. I wanted to see the impact of my SIM card, or let's say the technology, on the lives of people.
Correct.
And I have met people who are 80 years old, whose first communication in their lives has been on a mobile phone.
Amazing.
So they had never ever made a telephone call, even with a landline. So you see, technology disrupts people at the bottom of the pyramid a lot. It impacts them, and we don't see it. So in the same way, these 3 programs have really impacted the people in rural India, the lives of ordinary people. Disintermediated, Aadhaar is known to have disintermediated the issues of delivery of money to the last mile.
The direct benefit transfer.
Jan Dhan Yojana. I was fortunate to have been on the task force for the Jan Dhan Yojana. So I've seen the impact of what a simple bank account can do to the lives of people. Correct. Today there are more than 15 or 20 billion dollars held in those accounts. And if somebody has saved 10,000 rupees or 20,000, which is lying in that deposit, at least the money is safe.
Correct.
And change lives, because
I agree. And this empowerment is what, if I can use the term, a one-way street. I mean, it's only going to get better and better.
Yes, absolutely. The RSBY program, the Swasth Bima Yojana, 150 million people to receive cashless health insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing.
And I guess these are unprecedented things that.
Yes.
Amazing.
The scale is unprecedented. And today Aadhaar, just to add here, I think this is a program that is being sought by many countries.
I agree.
Because the problems that we were having are the problems that many African nations,
all the
subsidy
developing
flows,
countries,
all of them face.
I agree. So let's talk biometrics a little bit. Around the world, and I'm sure in India as well, there is a group of people who think that biometrics invades my privacy.
Yes, they do. So
what are your thoughts as the guru of identity?
Well, we have to define the word invades, and then we have to define the word privacy.
Correct.
Obviously, the central theme is consent. So if I give away something, if I'm giving my biometrics with consent, now that consent, then I give something to get something, which is the example we cited some time back. In case of should biometrics be used for general surveillance, I disagree. And there are some activism on that. Use of face technology for massive surveillance being done in some large countries.
I agree.
There are some activists in this regard in the US. But I think the general consensus is coming that if we use it A, with consent, and B, for larger good, I think people who don't have much to fear are not so much anxious about it.
Fair enough. So Sanjeev, one more question on identity before I move to the next segment. This is the age of millennials. How are millennials adapting to all this new technology?
See, there are 4 large trends, Ashutosh, in our world. One is the increasing use of what I call transactions.
Okay.
Now, these transactions could be payment transactions, they could be transit movement of people, they could be, transactions of sending goods and objects. So, increasing use of transactions. The second large trend is mobility.
Okay.
I want to consume as much as I can in a mobile context. So, we hardly use laptops.
Correct.
Most of the time we are communicating on our phones. So, mobility. The third is, of course, security, because we want to be careful and we are becoming more and more conscious of our digital assets and how we want to preserve or conserve what we want to give away.
Correct.
And the fourth is convenience.
Right.
I don't mind giving away some stuff if life becomes easy for me.
Absolutely.
So these are some 4 large trends. Now, if you come back to millennials, actually these trends are being defined by them.
Amazing. Yeah.
Because almost all millennials, they are living on their mobile phones.
Correct.
They are moving around. They are conscious of their digital assets.
Correct.
And they are shaping the future of how identity, or I would say digital security in general, would be kind of consumed. Many and more people, we are talking of using different means of payment. For example, I don't want to use cash. I want to use cards. I don't want to use cards. I want to use a phone. I don't want to use a phone. I want to use a QR code. So millennials, of course, they are the biggest consumers and they are defining trends in our
Well said. Wonderful. So let's move on. Let's talk to you about startups and entrepreneurs. You've done your own, and I'm sure you've invested in many. My first question to you, and I get different views on this: should a startup entrepreneur go solo, or should they have a co-founder?
I think having a co-founder is good.
Okay.
The reason is that, anyways, you need to, as an entrepreneur, you need to create belief. Because you start alone.
Yeah.
Even if you hire an employee, you have to create belief.
Okay.
Now, if you can't find a founder, it means that you have something missing, that you are unable to create belief.
I see. Okay. I've never not heard this
Yes.
perspective. That's fantastic.
The other thing is that usually you will find that a co-founder would have a balancing effect, because an individual has his own way of dealing with
Biases,
things, bias. A chance is that a co-founder would be a good balancing force.
Okay.
And because he is coming as an equal, may not be in terms of ownership interest,
Sure.
but the journey is as equals. I think there's a lot of value.
Well said. Well
to have
said.
a co-founder.
So the next question is that, and this is for the thousands of people who listen to us and will hear us chat. A lot of them are entrepreneurs. What, in your view, are some of the basic mistakes a lot of startup entrepreneurs make?
I think they oversimplify things.
Okay.
See, today, different from our times, getting funding is relatively simple.
Yeah.
And many entrepreneurs believe that it's rather easy to be successful. I think the entrepreneurs should treat the VC's money as their own.
Correct.
Difficult to do that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
better to do that. And invest deeply and patiently. Be patient. Scaling up too early, not ready, but looking after value, chasing valuation. These are the current issues that entrepreneurs face.
Very good. So you just mentioned scaling up. My next question is on scaling up. VCs tend to drive startups to say that when you will be pan-India. I love this term because everyone says pan-India. And I've often told people, just be pan-Gurgaon and you've got 3 million people.
Exactly.
Sitting. And if you got pan-NCR, you've got 22 million.
Yeah, exactly.
What, according to you, is the time when they should start to look at scaling up?
See, a lot will depend upon what business you are in.
Correct.
So, are you dealing directly with consumers? These days, many entrepreneurs are going B2B.
Yeah.
So, the answers will be different. But let's say generally this question is directed towards a B2C context. And I think you said it well, that it's good to be a reasonably dominant name or brand or service in a finite geography.
Correct.
Than being a rather also ran in a larger geography.
And say you're pan-India.
And say you're pan-India. So, being pan-India is not enough. I think the value comes when people or your consumers want you, and even more when they can't do without you. So now, at what stage will that stage reach? That's for the individual to decide. But chasing geography may not be the best way to get success.
Okay. So one more question on startups before I move to a few personal questions. You mentioned that now raising money is not so difficult. And yet, one of the biggest challenges a lot of startups even today face is raising money. What would your advice be to startups on when they should raise money?
Well, today, fortunately, the environment allows founders or entrepreneurs to raise money at various stages of the development cycle. I meet a lot of them, many of them. Not as many as you do, but perhaps few of them. But in most cases, I find that they are less prepared. They have not done their homework well, and they need to reach that stage before they can, make a pitch to even an angel. Fortunately, now there are some accelerator programs that are available, so people should benefit from them. Fortunately, there are many more entrepreneurs today. There is not so much, I would say, fear of failure, if you want to call it, or the stigma of failure, as it used to be early
Some
days,
time back,
some time back. So there are more people who are, I would say, wanting to be entrepreneurs, willing to take those risks.
Okay.
So I mean, there is no golden rule on how to raise money.
Correct.
Today the question is more on the side of the people who want to put money, that they need to find, who separate the wheat from the chaff,
Yes.
and put money on something that
Wonderful.
has a higher chance of success.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well said. So, a few questions for you now personally. My first question to you would be that over the years, and you've been such a successful entrepreneur, and you said you started at 35. Over the years, have you had any people who had a strong influence on you? And if yes, what have been your learnings from them?
Yes. I think I have one person in my family and one person from the outside.
Okay.
So first of all, my mother. She taught me empathy and consistency. So she used to say, that you need to be empathetic to people and kind of be able to create empathy so that people can be with you.
Correct.
And you have to be consistent. Consistent also means hard work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are general messages that I guess all mothers give. I got mine
Absolutely.
from my mother. And
Very
I
valuable
really,
lessons.
and I really treat it, I've internalized
I
it.
agree.
The other is Professor C.K. Prahlad.
Okay.
So I had a chance meeting with him, and his favorite topic was fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. And I think that made a deep impact on me. To some extent, it was already a passion that I used to have, how I could be impactful at the grassroots.
Yeah.
And hearing him or talking to him, spending some time with him, and reading his books made me believe that there should be a higher purpose to making money.
Correct.
And changing lives of people is, I think,
certainly
is deeply satisfying.
Absolutely right. My next question to you would be that, what would be 3 words that define Sanjeev?
3 words that define me. Optimistic.
Okay.
Empowering. I love to empower people and delegate. And I would say trusting.
Okay.
Trusting.
Yeah, all great words. All great words. And I'm sure everyone who works with you must be loving you.
Yeah. I think if you can be optimistic, because entrepreneurship is bound to have failures, bound to have difficulties, and if you feel optimistic of the outcome, eventually you succeed.
Correct.
You may succeed less or more, but you get out of the issues.
True. So Sanjeev, this is an interesting segue into my next question, and you just spoke of failure. I asked this question on failure to everybody, because my hypothesis is that in India particularly, and Asia in general, we don't teach our children that it's okay to fail. Everywhere is come first, be first in the queue, first in the line, first in class. And if you are first, then I've got parents saying that, why are you associating with yourself with other friends who are not as good as you?
Yeah.
And therefore, failure is difficult to appreciate and comprehend in our country. And yet we fail all the time.
Yes.
So my question to you is, what have been some of your learnings from some of your mistakes or your failures?
See, Ashutosh, you said it all, that there has been in the past, and I think now the trend is changing.
Correct.
20 years ago, 30 years ago, there were only 2 or 3 professions.
Correct.
You could
Doctor,
either
lawyer,
be a doctor,
engineer.
lawyer, engineer. And
Yes.
if you were a little bright, you could become a chartered accountant.
Chartered accountant. And if you were exceptionally bright, you became an IAS.
It became an IAS, right? Fortunately, that pressure has now you could become a sportsman, you could become a DJ, people started.
I agree.
So parents have eased off. I would say that generally, and I'm a parent. I'm quite liberal in that aspect. But coming back to failure, obviously the stigma of failure is also failure.
Correct.
I think it was a big problem It is a big problem when you are dealing with banks, because there it is a bit more kind of constrained in terms of the context of lending. Funded by VCs or funded by private equity, so long as the failure is coming out of, out of 10 businesses that they invest in, only 1 or 2 will be hugely successful, and 3 or 4 might fail and would fail. So I think that stigma is declining rapidly, and that is giving rise to entrepreneurship. What would be a lesson that I would give is that, if you're optimistic, if your belief system is strong, I think failures are transient, because they will come, and one fine day, the sun will shine again.
Correct.
Now, if you are in a bad space, or if your model is wrong, then accept it, and move on.
I agree. So my last question to you now, and I come back to startups and entrepreneurship. What would your advice be to a young entrepreneur starting off his or her life, looking ahead at Sanjeev and saying, what an incredible success? What would your advice be to them?
For a new guy who wants to start something, first of all, create belief in yourself. Because, it's a whole question of positivity. And if you have belief in yourself, and if you're convinced about the idea, don't be convinced about the idea of making money. Be convinced about the business that you want to get into. I think people are now getting confused between the idea of making money, which is different from the idea that is central to them. So if you're convinced about the idea that is so paramount in your heart and that burns your passion, that is something that is really driving you to entrepreneurship, then that becomes the central pole around which your universe will revolve. वो गालिब को पता नहीं किसकी गजल है, वो शेर है कि मैं तो अकेले घर से निकला था जाने लोग मिलते गए और कारवां बढ़ता गया.
बहुत खूब.
So ultimately, if you can drive people to passion, I tell my team that I'm like a virus. They were talking about coronavirus, and I said, I'm a virus. Come and meet me, and I will enchant you with the problem of identity.
Wonderful. Fantastic. So Sanjeev, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and I wish you lots of success.
I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You podcast. Be sure to visit tbcy.in to join the conversation, access show notes, and discover fantastic bonus content. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Simply search for The Brand Called You. Thank you, and see you next week.